There is a war most people never see. It does not take place on a battlefield of weapons or armies, but in the quiet space of your own thoughts. It begins the moment you wake, before a word is spoken or a choice is made. It is the battle for the mind. Every decision, every emotion, every moment of faith or struggle begins in this unseen territory. Life is rarely lost all at once. It is often lost one thought at a time, through fear, doubt, guilt, and subtle lies that sound almost true. This is where the conflict is fiercest and where destiny is quietly shaped. What happens in the mind eventually shapes everything else. Jesus understood this deeply. When he spoke about sin, he did not begin with actions, but with thoughts. When he taught about faith, he did not start with mountains, but with the belief that mountains could move. His words always reach beneath behavior and into the thoughts that form it. The mind is not a playground, it is a battlefield. And Jesus came not only to redeem the soul, but to free the mind. He knew the silent wars people would fight, the battles with fear, regret, uncertainty, and self-doubt. He knew how loud the noise could become, even in a quiet room. That is why he spoke truth, because truth is the only force that silences lies. That is why he taught peace, because peace is victory over chaos. And that is why he called for a renewed mind, because transformation always begins there. The battle of the mind is not simply about thinking better thoughts. It is about surrendering your thoughts to the one who has already overcome. When you begin to see through his perspective, the power of the inner war begins to fade. The mind is the first battlefield. Before sin ever reaches the hands, it whispers to the thoughts. Before doubt is spoken, it grows quietly within. If the mind is captured, everything else soon follows. Fear, confusion, and pride all begin as ideas before they become actions. From the beginning, this was the strategy. The first conflict did not begin with force, but with a question that challenged trust. A single doubt disrupted certainty. Strength was not attacked directly. Perception was. The first war was fought in thought, and that pattern continues. The enemy does not need to destroy faith outright. It is enough to introduce uncertainty. Not to erase belief in God, but to question his goodness or faithfulness. That is the nature of the mental battlefield. Quiet, constant, and subtle. Jesus revealed this truth when he taught that wrongdoing begins long before it is visible. It starts in the imagination, where actions are formed. His words were not meant to burden, but to awaken awareness. What fills the heart eventually finds expression. The mind becomes the soil where either freedom or bondage grows. If deception is planted there, it will take root. If truth is sown, freedom will flourish. This is why the mind must be guarded with care. The most dangerous battles are often the ones fought in silence, where no one else can see the tension between trust and fear. The enemy rarely shouts, he suggests. He whispers in the tone of familiar thoughts. Ideas of inadequacy, abandonment, or hopelessness often arrive disguised as logic. These are not harmless reflections. They are spiritual attacks wrapped in reasoning. Jesus showed another way. He did not allow his thoughts to wander unchecked. He aligned them with truth. Each time deception appeared, he answered with what was already written. He demonstrated that the first battlefield of life is the mind, and the victory belongs to those who choose faith over fear. Lies are not just statements, they are seeds. Once planted, they reshape how everything is seen. A lie about worth becomes shame. A lie about the future becomes anxiety. A lie about love becomes distance. Slowly, the mind can become a prison constructed from thoughts that never belonged there. Lies destroy, not always the body, but peace, joy, and purpose. They convince you to doubt what has already been spoken over your life. They cause you to settle where freedom was promised. That is why truth does not negotiate with lies. It dismantles them. Darkness is not defeated by argument, but by light. Deception is not reasoned away. It is replaced. The most dangerous lies are the ones that feel believable. Thoughts that suggest permanence to pain or conditions to love quietly oppose truth. Conviction leads toward change. Condemnation pushes toward hiding. One draws you closer to grace. The other drives you away from it. Thoughts that lead you to withdraw from mercy do not come from God. Truth does more than inform. It transforms. When fear no longer defines your inner dialogue, peace begins to take its place. Freedom does not begin in circumstances. It begins in the mind. The moment agreement with lies ends, restoration begins. Before peace was spoken to storms, Jesus faced his greatest mental trial in solitude. Hunger, exhaustion, and isolation created vulnerability, but the true conflict was internal. Identity was questioned. Purpose was challenged. Authority was tested. Each temptation was an invitation to think differently about who he was and what he needed to prove. Yet he refused to respond from insecurity or impulse. He answered with truth. Not argument, not emotion, but declaration. This revealed how mental battles are won. Darkness cannot withstand truth. The word is not passive. It cuts through deception and silences false voices. The wilderness was not punishment. It was preparation. Silence was not abandonment. It was training. Before calm could be spoken into chaos, peace had to be established within. The greatest battle is rarely about the situation. It is about which voice is believed while standing in it. When truth becomes the response, deception eventually retreats. Transformation requires renewal. A new life cannot be lived with an unchanged mind. Change does not begin when circumstances shift, but when perspective does. Renewal is not a moment. It is a daily surrender of old patterns of thinking. Many thoughts were formed through fear, disappointment, or pain. Renewal means allowing those patterns to be replaced. It is learning to release what no longer aligns with who you are becoming. Awareness is the first step. Every thought must be examined through truth. Prayer reshapes perception. It is not only communication, but alignment. Scripture is not meant only to be studied, but absorbed. Over time, truth rewrites what lies once shaped. Fear gives way to trust. Reaction gives way to peace. Anxiety is one of the most persistent battles of the mind. It thrives on imagined futures and unanswered questions. Attention fuels it. Where focus goes, influence follows. That is why attention must be redirected. Worry pulls the mind into tomorrow and robs peace from today. Trust restores presence. Imagination can fuel fear, but it can also strengthen faith. When peace stands guard, fear loses access. Peace is not passive. It protects. When anxious thoughts arise, they can be rewritten through trust. Anxiety does not predict the future. It reflects where trust is placed. As trust grows, anxiety fades. The mind must be guarded. What enters it shapes what emerges from it. Every sound, image, and word plants something. Intention determines growth. Nourishing truth strengthens clarity. Feeding fear multiplies unrest. Guarding the mind is an act of devotion. It is choosing what shapes your inner life. Over time, sensitivity to peace increases. Reactions soften, fear quiets. What is fed today becomes tomorrow's fruit. To live with the mind of Christ is to walk in steadiness. It is not the absence of storms, but mastery within them. Peace does not deny reality. It refuses to be ruled by it. Perspective shifts from panic to purpose. Peace radiates quietly. It does not announce itself. When thoughts align with truth, calm follows naturally. Control gives way to surrender. Reaction gives way to trust. The greatest battle is not against others, but within. Every thought moves you closer to peace or further into unrest. Yet the victory is already secured. Freedom was not only given to the soul, but to the mind. Thoughts may still challenge, but they no longer have authority. When surrendered, they are reshaped. Fear is answered with faith. Doubt is met with truth. Anxiety is replaced with peace. The war within was never meant to destroy. It was meant to teach dependence. Once the mind is freed, nothing else can hold you. Peace becomes steady, truth becomes familiar, and the inner battle no longer defines you.